Shemai Briniai and welcome back to my channel. My name is Caitlin Anwyn for anyone who's new here, and let's get back into building in Planet Zoo. And today I'm building a Dall Sheep or Dall Sheep Habitat, and I thought I would go with like the 50s theme that I did for the restaurant that I built last week. And I thought I would build the sheep drive-in movie theatre. So to start with, I'm gonna be building the big screen that obviously the movie's gonna play on. And I picked the Missy Good video that I think is just supposed to be advertising a Missy Good food shop. But as you can see, it's kind of like vintage, it's sepia tone, so it seemed more like retro. And I thought that would be perfect for like a 50s drive-in movie without having to actually put in any video clips myself. So nice and easy, just selecting a video that's already in game. And I'd had a look at a few different reference images of drive-in movie theatres from the 1950s, and I had a look at ones that were even in European countries as well as the American drive-ins, because I am trying to blend the European and American styles together for this zoo. And I really liked the more ornate style of like the screen support. Maybe it's more like the wall where they would project the screen onto, but I like the ornate style because it felt more like something that would be built in that time instead of it being more modern. And I didn't really want any bright colours to distract away from the movie, like the screen itself. So I went for grey for the screen support, or like the wall where you would project. I really like this wall topper. I thought it was fun because it kind of looks like those old film rolls that you would get on those like instant cameras. And I am kind of old enough to remember that. But I thought with like the film reel kind of tying in with the movie theme really worked as well. I've always wanted to go to a drive-in movie, so it was really fun to create something like this. They did have a few drive-in cinemas doing all of those lockdowns in like 2020, but wherever they were, because of lockdown, we couldn't actually get to where they were. But I've always wanted to go to a drive-in cinema. I think it just looks so fun, and especially because you get to like sit in your own car. I've never really liked going to the regular cinemas. It's the feeling of being trapped because you don't want to be the one that's gonna have to walk past people to leave the room while the film is on. The joys of being socially awkward. I liked adding the extra little details on the screen wall. Some of the classic style items have a really ornate carved details on them, so that made it feel a little bit more aged, copying the like older styles. I don't know. I used to love Grease. Oh, I still do. Like I could probably sing along to like every song on Grease, but I would watch it all the time when I was younger. And there is a scene in Grease while Danny's singing, while he's like on the swings, there's like this concessions adverts, like they're advertising snacks or something before the film starts, and I always remembered like this ice cream pot or something, all like marching and dancing. There was like ice creams and a hot dog and a bun, and the hot dog's doing tricks. So seeing like the kind of retro looking advertisements kind of reminded me of that as well. And that's why I'm also wearing a pink jacket today, because I thought pink ladies. I do like to match my outfits to my videos, and this is as close as I can get to the pink ladies jackets. It was a little bit easier to know that the guests won't be seeing the back of this movie screen. I'm just going to call it all different things because I don't really know. So I didn't really have to worry about anything looking off at the back. I just needed the front to look good because I was going to line it up right next to the terrain. I did mention this in the last video when I finished off this restaurant that you can see here, I thought it was like a little bit plain on the outside, so I thought why not build the habitat around this restaurant so when the guests do come and dine in the restaurant or in the diner as this is, they can look out and see the sheep roaming around in their habitat. So to make sure that the restaurant actually works, because the Dall sheep, they're not dangerous, but guests aren't actually allowed to enter the habitat. So the restaurant wouldn't have worked if it was inside the habitat, but I've used null barriers to kind of follow along the walls of the restaurant. So the restaurant technically isn't inside a habitat. The habitat's built just around the restaurant. So there's like ways around the restrictions for the restaurants. And for the cars, for the drive-in, I am confident in my building abilities, but not to build something like this, and it would have just taken me forever. This has taken me like 5 hours to build anyway. So because I just knew I wouldn't actually be able to build any cars that look anything like this, and my other option was using the 4x4 trucks that we have in game, I thought I would just download some cars from the workshop. All of the cars that I've used in this habitat will be linked in the description. They're also favorited, so if you go onto my workshop you can click on my favorites, and everything that I use in builds and use often are favorited on there as well. So there'll be a long list of things that I have used in builds. One of the sets of cars that I use the most in this build is Cars/Vehicles set by Darth Delicious. The groups have been separated in the car itself, so you can just click on a group to change the colour of the car without having to multi-select anything, and that is just so useful for something like this because I wanted the cars to look different, of course. But I did use a couple of other blueprints. Planet Zoo scale car by Evil Monkey Boy. And that one was a little bit more difficult to recolor, but it was a really nice shape, and they all sort of were the same size, so that none of really stuck out that much compared to the others. And I also use one more, which was also created by Evil Monkey Boy, and that is called Pippi's Car, aka Echo 1. I have no idea what this is of, which is probably awful, but it was white and it looked kind of funky. I don't know how they did it. They look so real. Like even the interior of the car, which I was not expecting, kind of looks like a real car. I think it's so cool. And I also used a path to map out where I wanted the road to go, and I thought having it wrap around the whole habitat made sense because it gave the cars enough space to actually be able to drive around. I thought if they came in through the other side, the angle of the cars would be wrong and it wouldn't look like realistic in a way. I'm not sure. Unless it's a Welsh driving movies, I'm not sure whether sheep would actually just take over the driving movie theatre. But I wanted to make sure that it sort of looked like the cars could actually realistically drive into this space and park where they are. And I also kind of wanted to block off some of the view from the restaurant to the Christmas town habitat that I have on the right, on the one side. I'm not sure whether it's the right or left at the moment because obviously this is a speed build and I keep rotating my camera, so I thought I would add in some trees to block off the view of the Christmas habitat. And then I wanted to make a nice big bright sign to advertise this drive-in, and the reference image for this sign was actually like a clip art image, and this one was really fun. I picked this one because there was lots of different angles, and that's kind of a little bit more difficult to do In Planet Zoo, like, the angle snap helps a lot, but trying to get the angles to join up nicely, even though the sign is quite big, the square is actually like the smallest square you can use with the plaster pieces. So I ended up playing around with all different like objects to create this sign, just to have those different angles, which is really funny because by the time that I actually finished this and I was like happy with the results, it didn't really matter about the corners, which you will see. But I picked the red retro vintage red color from the 50s diner as well, so that would kind of match in. But I really enjoyed playing around with the different angles. The advanced move tool is pretty much the only way I would have been able to create this. And if you are new, you're not sure how you get up the advanced move tool, you can click on an object already placed, and there is a button on the UI that you can click on to get up the advanced move tool. But you can also click on the X key on the keyboard to quickly place something using the advanced move tool. And if you want to duplicate something using the advanced move tool, just hold Control and click X. And if I didn't think the angles were awkward enough from one side, I also wanted this to be double-sided, because obviously the guests aren't always going to see the sign from one side of the path, they're going to see it from both sides. And these little diamonds are going to be a cute little sign saying cinema. I was kind of disappointed that the writing wasn't smaller, but you can't see much, and especially in the nighttime as well, you can't really see the letters hanging off that much. Because I picked the very thin letters, the small thin ones, it doesn't really show up that much from a distance. And this is what I meant when I said it didn't really matter that I tried so hard to get nice crisp corners, because I ended up adding this lovely bright sun sign in the one corner. The sun actually has like a little smiley face and a little sleepy face, so I thought that was fun too. Normally go to a drive-in at night, so having a little sleepy face for the drive-in was really cute. Because it's a double-sided sign, I have one side with a little happy face and then the other side has the sleepy face. I've never really done anything this large before. Never really even used those big 3D letters. I don't think, anyway. Maybe to use them in any other way than what they were actually supposed to be used for, but actually use them for something that they were kind of meant for, a big sign. I wanted to add in some lights as well, because it's got to be nice and bright and inviting to advertise the guests that there is a drive-in cinema. And the New World lights were perfect. The string of them wasn't really any good for me because the string kept poking out of the sign, and if I kept the string inside the sign, the lights didn't actually go right up to the edge of the sign. But of course now we have these individual lights, and these are genius. I love these so much. I don't know who in Frontier decided to add these in as separate light bulbs, but I thank you so much for it. These are so fun. I could just imagine using these for so many different things, not just for signs like this, but like those glamorous like makeup mirrors with the lights around them, old Hollywood style. Oh. And even things that really probably you wouldn't think to use them with, like you could use them as eyes for some kind of spooky build when recolor them red as like red eyes. I don't know, there's so many things that you can do with these light bulbs, and I kind of love them. I'm so happy we have these now. And here is my problem with having the sign so asymmetrical, because I could not just duplicate the drive-in and the lights over onto the other side of the sign. I had to get a little bit creative for this. It wasn't like the usual select and just drag to the other side, because it's asymmetrical and it's lettering. it didn't make sense. So I needed to do things in groups and separately to make sure they all aligned properly and made sense on the other side of the sign too. And I had a little think. I actually came back a day later after building this, and I thought I would personalise the sign a little bit more for the habitat and call this drive-in Dall's Drive-In or Dall's Drive-In. I like alliteration. I like that I've added in a little bit more personalisation into the drive-in as well, so it's not just a drive-in cinema. It's Dall's Drive-In Cinema because the sheep have taken over the drive-in. To finish off the sign, I also wanted to add a smaller sign underneath advertising what film the drive-in is showing. In my dream world, it would definitely be Grease, of course. That would be my drive-in movie that I would love to watch. This one's going to be called Missy Good because that's what the video is showing. But if you were going to go to a drive-through, what are you ordering? Burger? Chips? Chicken nuggets? Let's try that again. If you're going to a drive-in cinema, what film would you like to see in the drive-in? Would you like to see like a brand new film or something that you've loved throughout childhood? Kind of like what I would like to see. The words underneath, that's in whatever Planet Zoo language. I never remember what the Planet Zoo language is called. The words are actually written underneath Missy Good at the start of this video advertisement. So I just added that underneath to start with, but then I thought it would look better above because then I can kind of pretend that it says something like now showing. But yep, that is it for the drive-in cinema, drive-in movie theatre for the Dalls. I kind of ignored the one side of the habitat because I had a plan for something else for that side, but this is like the main chunk of the habitat. I'm not necessarily going to class this as a two-parter because the next part fits in really nicely with this whole theme, but the two can be watched completely separately. They are two completely different builds, but they do fit in really well together as well. But so does the 50s diner that I built. They all kind of fit in nicely together in this area because they're all going to be built together. Any guesses what could fit in with this 50s drive-in movie theme? I'll give you a little clue. It's going to be food related. If you do have any ideas, leave your guesses in the comments. And I'm gonna leave it off there. Watch the Dalls take over this drive-in movies. If you enjoyed this video, smash that like button. And if you haven't already and you would like to, it would mean a lot to me if you could subscribe and hit the bell to be notified whenever I upload a new video. I upload on Wednesdays and sometimes Saturdays. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day and I will see you next time. Goodbye!